Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is all about a new foundation. This is the Cover FX Power Play Foundation. I've been playing around with this for about a week and a half now, and I really like this foundation. If you are interested in hearing a little bit more about the foundation, about how I've been able to help it work for my normal to dry skin, as well as kind of see how it wears throughout the day, then stay tuned. So I've been on the hunt for a long-wear foundation. I am a nurse, and when I put on my foundation in the morning, many times it's about 4:45 or 5 in the morning, and I expect my foundation to at least look somewhat decent by the time that my shift ends around 7:30 at night. I don't have expectations for it looking the same, but I don't want it to look worse than if I had not worn foundation at all, if that makes any sense. And sometimes it's hard having a drier skin type to find a long wear foundation that works for you because they can be a bit drying. When I saw that Marc Jacobs came out with their Remarkable foundation, if you've watched that video that I made, you know that that was a complete miss for me. I had really high expectations, so I was super disappointed. And then Cover FX came out with the Power Play, and I felt like they were making many of the same claims, so I had to pick this up. I was going to try to wait for the Sephora Spring Sale or VIB Sale, whatever they're calling it these days, but I saw that Cover FX was having their friends and family 25% off, so I snagged it then, and I wanted to play around with this for a little while to give you my thoughts in case you wanted to pick this up if this foundation ended up working for me. And a bit of a teaser, it does. I really like it, and I have hinted at that with some of my other videos, or if you're following me on Instagram. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the claims the foundation makes, as well as some of the details. First up is it's 1.18 fluid ounces, and it retails for $44. Of course, I got this at a discount through the Friends and Family sale, and I think that's a relatively good price for this foundation. The packaging is a little bit deceiving. It looks like it's smaller than that. I don't know. I mean, even without the top, it kind of looks like a small size. Now, since we're talking about packaging, I am not a fan of this packaging. I do like that it's in plastic. I really don't mind that. I know that some people feel that when you're paying a little bit more for a foundation, they wish it was maybe in glass or like a frosted glass, something a little bit more substantial. I don't really care. For me, it's much more about functionality, and I don't feel that this meets the mark in that area. It's square, and so given that it's got this squeezy top, it makes it a little bit difficult at times to get the foundation out, especially really early in the morning where I don't have a lot of patience for putting on my makeup. I think if this was maybe a rectangle instead of a square, or if it had a pump, I think that would have lent itself much better to getting the product out. Now, in terms of shades, based on Sephora's website, it has 40 shades, which I really like to see. I want to know that a foundation I'm picking up there's a shade for everybody, and this takes both shade as well as undertone into consideration, like all of Cover FX foundations. If you are golden undertones, you'll want to take a look at their G range. However, if you are golden olive, they now have a G+, which I thought was really great. From what I hear, that can be a little bit of a difficult undertone to match. If you have a cooler pink undertone, then P is going to be the range you'll want to look at, and if you have an even mix of golden and pink undertones, then you'll want to consider their neutral range. Now, based on your undertone, you'll then want to consider how deep your skin tone is. On Sephora's website, 0 to 20 is for fair skin, 25 to 40 is for light, 50 to 60 is medium, 70 to 85 is medium deep, 90 to 100 is deep, and then 110 to 125 is extra deep. Another thing I liked about this is that based on their website, it says that it's a universal shade. Cover FX specializes in complexion, and one of the things that I've noticed is that with some other brands, I might be a warm ivory in this particular foundation, but then they come up with a new foundation, I buy warm ivory, and whether it oxidizes or for whatever reason, it's not the same color. And I liked that for Cover FX, they put a lot of thought into that. I've tried their natural finish foundation as well as the custom cover drops, and those both wear on me the same. And I can tell you that the shade that I picked up and 30 is the same, and so I have a lot of confidence in their foundations that it's pretty universal. And I do really like that they have a wide variety of undertones, shades, that everyone is represented here. Now, I do have a bit of a more golden undertone. However, I can get a little bit pink in my cheeks, and so I do find that more neutral based foundations tend to wear best on me, especially because I don't typically go after full coverage foundations. I do like to be able to see my skin a little bit through, and so if I have a golden foundation and you can kind of see the pinks of my cheeks, it can interfere a little bit too much, so that's just basically how I tend to prefer to pick out my foundation shades. And this is described as a light to medium with neutral undertones. One of the claims that they make is that this foundation is full coverage. I would say it's medium to full. I haven't tried to build this up too much. I do have it on right now, and you can still see a little bit of my skin. I do have a little bit of hyperpigmentation spots here as well as here that you can kind of see, but I think that the coverage is definitely, it's almost full coverage. And with coverage, I do find that if my skin is super moisturized and I apply enough of a good primer, I can apply it light enough to where it is a simple medium coverage, and I do like that I can kind of play around a little bit with that. Now the website does say that this is for combo and oily skin types. However, I have normal to dry and I found ways that this can work for me. Another claim is that this foundation is matte, and I think that this falls within that modern matte category that they're calling nowadays, where it's matte but not flat. And I do think that this looks like my skin. I wouldn't say it's a radiant foundation, it just looks like my skin. Other claims are that this is weightless and blurring. I do think that this does blur a little bit, and while I don't say it's weightless, I constantly forget that it's on my face, so it's very lightweight. They also say that this is sweat proof. I have worn this during work and it has held up very well even during some pretty crazy days in the ICU. And all day wear, I will show you guys some pictures at the end of the video of how my foundation has looked at the end of a work day, and I will also check in with you guys as my day-to-day progresses. Now in terms of ingredients, one of the top ingredients that this has is that it has a variety of silicones. If you don't like that texture, and to me it's not super obvious like certain mousse foundations can be, then you may not like this. Now this also does have alcohol in it, which can be a little bit drying to certain skin types, but this is the 24th ingredient and I have not found this to be drying at all. Now in terms of what this does not have, it does not have phthalates, sulfates, gluten, talc, mineral oil. Now it also does not have fragrance, so the sensitive prone girl was happy to see that as well. And CoverFX is also a vegan and cruelty-free company. Next I'm going to show you how I apply the foundation. I do include some skincare because I do think this is important as to make sure that your skin is well hydrated and moisturized, especially if you do have a drier skin type. So if you're interested in seeing how I apply my foundation, then stay tuned. So now I'm going to show you how I apply the CoverFX Power Play Foundation to my skin. As I mentioned, I do have normal to dry skin, and wearing a matte foundation can be a bit tricky if you have a drier skin type. So I did not finish all of my skincare. I did save some things to show you how I like to finish my skincare and some considerations that you may want to think of if you're looking at purchasing a matte foundation, especially this one, but you do have a drier skin type. I have applied, I've cleansed, I've put my SK2 on, I've done a couple different serums, but because it's been a little while since I applied my last serum, I'm going to go in with the Peter Thomas Roth Water Drench. This is a hyaluronic acid serum, and this one is, it's okay. It's not my absolute favorite. I tend to like hyaluronic acid serums with a lot more in them. And before I put that on, I'm going to go ahead and spray the Colleen Rothschild Beauty Water. This is going to help the serum kind of glide on a little bit. It's going to also give something for the hyaluronic acid to pull from. And if you're in a drier environment, sometimes hyaluronic acid serums could pull from your skin if it can't pull from the environment. And then I will sometimes even go in again with the mist. I'm next going to follow up with my moisturizer. Today I'm using the Kate Somerville Goat Milk Cream. This is one of my favorite moisturizers. If you have normal to dry skin, if it's sensitive prone, this is a great moisturizer. I've been through several. Don't forget your neck. And I've already applied an eye serum, and I feel like my eyes are moisturized enough, so now I'm just going to go in with my SPF. This is the Paula's Choice Resist Super Light Wrinkle Daily Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense SPF 30. The reason I chose this SPF is that it is also a little bit more moisturizing than my Ulta MD. So I'm making sure that I'm focused on hydration and moisture before putting on this foundation. And this does have a little bit of a tint to it, which I really like because it's a physical based SPF and you can get that white cast. And I do think this has some blurring effect to it if you were just to put this on. Alright, so now my skin is hydrated, moisturized, and prepped with SPF. Next, I'm going to go in with primer. I have lately been using the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. This is almost completely, I mean, I'm literally scraping the last little bits out of this. You know that I like a product when I do that. This has been a go-to primer for me lately with a lot of different foundations, and I don't know, I just find that my skin really takes to it well, and a lot of the foundations that I wear over it, they lay really nicely. So now it's time for foundation. One of the things that I also like to do that gives it a little bit less of a matte appearance is to add a little bit of a liquid highlighter. This is also by Cover FX. This is a deluxe sample of the Custom Enhancer Drops, and the color that I have is Moonlight. This has been sitting for a little while, so the little dropper mechanism isn't working very well. But that's one of the other things that you can do with a matte foundation is to find a liquid highlighter that has a similar texture. And the liquid highlighter, the Custom Enhancer Drops, does have a very similar texture, a little less silicone-y than the Cover FX. So I'm going to add a little bit to my hand. And one of the things that I don't care as much for is the container. I really do wish that this had a pump. Because it's square, it's a little bit harder to get the foundation out. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this, and because the dropper mechanism isn't really working, I'm just going to kind of, I think that's enough. And I'm just going to basically mix the two in my hand. And so I'm basically going to kind of work in sections. I find that this is my favorite way of applying, as well as using with a beauty blender as opposed to my fingers or a brush. And then I'm just going to blend that into the skin. And I'm not sure if you guys can see, but adding that liquid highlighter really does give a nice, go to the next cheek, give kind of a nice skin-like appearance to this. Skin-like appearance to the skin. A natural finish, I guess you could say. Natural, a little glowy. And you don't necessarily have to use the one from Cover FX, but it's been my favorite one to use just because the textures are very similar. Sometimes when you add to foundations that, especially ones I find that have a bit of a silicone to it, and this one is a silicone foundation, that things can, it messes with the texture of it, and you don't have to add a highlighter to it. This has just kind of become my favorite way of wearing this. And I like that with this foundation you have some options. I'm a girl that likes options. So I would say that this is probably medium to full, the coverage that I put on today. I have gone over certain areas, such as my cheeks, where I do have a little bit of redness and hyperpigmentation, but I still can see my skin through it. I still have a couple areas here that aren't completely covered. So now I'm going to go in with concealer. Today I'm going to use the Bare Minerals Bare Skin Complete Coverage Serum Concealer. And I'm mainly going to focus on my eyes. And the shade I'm using today is Light. And just go back in with my beauty blender. So now I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit so you can see the foundation a little bit more up close. I think this gives a really, really pretty finish to the skin. I don't necessarily think that you have to set this foundation, especially if you have a drier skin type. If you have an oilier skin type, I think you might have to set it. I'm going to go ahead and set my under eyes with the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Illumination. This has been my favorite to set my under eyes with. I'd love to know kind of what if you set your under eyes, what your favorite is. And for some reason I like applying this with the puff. Sometimes if I don't want to powder the rest of my face, I will focus maybe on areas like my forehead or right here that I do get a little bit shiny throughout the day. So oftentimes I will apply my eyebrows and then come back and finish the rest of my face. Today I am going to set my face. I have been playing around with this Milani powder. It's the Milani Prep, Set, and Go. No, Prep, Set, and Glow. It's an illuminating transparent powder. And that's what that looks like. And I'm just going to take this VIB Cosmetics wand ball powder brush and just kind of focus on mainly those areas that I talked about, but kind of leaving the cheeks where I think I've built up a really nice illumination on. I'm going to leave those alone so that I'm just going to basically go in with a little bit of bronzer, some blush, and I don't necessarily feel like I need to do some highlight, but I do like a little bit of a glow, so I do think that I will add to that. But I think that this is overall a really nice finish, and I think that as the day goes on, this foundation does wear, I think, even better. So I will be checking in with you guys as the day goes on and see what you guys think. Hey guys, I forgot to mention that when I put on this foundation, it was about 9:45 in the morning, and now it is about noon. I am on my way to Target on a Sunday around noon. Some of y'all might question my sanity in the comments below, but this is what the foundation looks like. I try to just kind of keep my makeup a little bit simple. One of the things that I like when I see foundation reviews are when the rest of the makeup is kind of simple, so that you can really just kind of focus on the foundation instead of like a heavy eye look and whatnot. So anyways, I don't see where it's breaking up at all. So far so good. Hey guys, it's about 6 o'clock at night. I have had this foundation on for 8 hours now. I put on around 10. So just kind of wanted to zoom you in a little bit. I am on my way to picking up some dinner, and it looks like I might be just kind of getting a little bit shiny here. And I've gotten like a little bit shiny here, maybe a little bit shiny there. But overall, I think the foundation still looks great. I have not powdered, touched up. I haven't used a blotting sheet. So yeah. All right guys, so it's about 8 o'clock at night. I've had this foundation on for, I believe, 10 hours now. And I've really been impressed with how it's worn. And as I mentioned, this is definitely not the first time that I've worn this foundation. This is not a first impressions, but I continue to be impressed by this foundation. I have worn this with a variety of primers, the Too Faced Prime and Poreless. I felt like that performed very well with that. I also used the Becca Backlight priming filter. I felt like that worked well as well. The Smashbox Photo Finish Foundation Primer. Recently got another little sample of that. I feel like I constantly get samples of that. But my favorite has definitely been the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. Overall, this foundation is just, it's blown me away because of the longevity, because it looks so natural. When I look at my skin, I feel like it might be kind of just starting to break up just a little bit there, and maybe the smallest amount on my chin, but other than that, I think it looks great. I am going to include some pictures from when I wore this to work. The first picture is, I think, about 9:30 in the morning. So at this point, I've had the foundation on for, I think, about 5 hours. I put the foundation on maybe 4.5 hours or so. So a good amount of time. The foundation looks great. And then I took a funny picture and I sent it to my friend Jess, who had been floated to another area of the hospital, and I was really bummed about that. So funny picture, but you can still see the foundation. It looks great. I think that was about 2:30 in the afternoon. And then the last pictures are from about 8:30 at night. And as you can see from the pictures, it is starting to wear off a little bit in the areas that it is on me right now. But in the pictures that I'll show now, especially like right here, like on my cheeks, it looks amazing. So I'm super impressed with this foundation. I am going to zoom you in so that you can see a little bit now on how it looks on various areas of my skin. But it's starting to just kind of lift off a little bit here and then right here. One of the things that I decided to pick up during the Cover FX Friends and Family sale was this it's called a click stick, but on one of the sides it has this little stick foundation and it's in my shade N30. And I thought what might be, I don't know, a smart idea is to carry this around with me in my purse, and then I can kind of touch up in those areas if I'm going to be wearing the foundation for quite some time. Maybe I'm going to be going out after work, which that rarely ever happens. To be completely honest with you, I actually think that my foundation in the pictures that I've posted looks a little bit better than it does today. And despite working a 14-hour shift, I think the biggest difference that I did then was that I set my face. So even though this foundation I don't think really requires you to set it with powder, I didn't set it today. I only really kind of set this area here, but I did set it in those pictures with the Laura Mercier, the translucent setting powder. And even though I looked more matte at the beginning of the day, I think that helped to control some of the shine that was coming through for me and helped the foundation to look better longer. So that's something just to kind of consider when you initially apply the foundation, what's going to aid in the longevity of the look as the day progresses. Alright guys, that is it. That is my review of the Cover FX Power Play Foundation. I've been so impressed by this. It feels so lightweight on the skin. I forget that I'm wearing it. It has amazing longevity and it just looks like my skin. It blends like a dream, and I can't say enough good things about this. And I'm excited that I found some ways to make this work for my normal to dry skin. And even though I have drier skin, you guys can see that I do get a little bit shiny throughout the day, but definitely not oily. And I think that the skincare on the front end definitely does help it work for my skin type. Thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your day with me. If you enjoyed this video and you like foundation reviews in general, consider giving me a like. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis, so consider subscribing, and while you're at it, hit the notification bell. I greatly appreciate all of your love and support. I hope that this video finds you well, and until next time, take care. Bye.